So I don't think Airbnb is really the next trend. I think that's already happened, right? I mean, I think people are pretty dialed into Airbnb right now. I think, honestly, I think mobile home parks. I think that's really
small houses.
Well, yeah, and small houses
for commercial.
But what I'm hearing a lot right now, working with investors, is buying up not just the home, but buying up the plot that the parks have to rent those out, and not really own the homes, but own that land that people are. I mean, that's actually getting really big right now. I mean, especially across Atlanta and the other areas of the country, South Carolina, North Carolina, Louisiana. Those are some big markets for that right now. So the other thing that I would think in regards to what's really trending really well, I love the residential assisted living. I mean, I think that is a big play over the next 20 years.
Yeah, it's still booming.
Yeah.
I think
time.
the whole idea of the smaller houses and the aging population, really, it's going to get even more creative. I think it's like you're saying, the assisted living, but I think we'll find 5 other types of like properties that shared, environments for the seniors and millennials looking to go smaller. I think you're just going to keep seeing scaling down on sizing and more lifestyle choices.
Yeah, I think you hit to me, what I was going to say is lifestyle. So you see a lot of suburbia coming back into. They want walkable streets. They want places they can walk to the farmers market. They can go to different shops and walkable. So people are taking older buildings, converting them into mixed use where they've got condos. Millennials looking for smaller places. They don't need a big grand house that maybe our parents needed, and that's the way it went. I still think that Airbnb is a big play. Okay. I think there's a lot of people that aren't doing it. The only thing with Airbnb that's a concern is that now you see a lot of the municipalities are getting involved to say we don't want Airbnb. Right. I was at a city council meeting last week in my city, and one of the things that came up was somebody was trying to do an Airbnb in a suburban neighborhood, and so the neighbors were picketing, and it was a big deal, and so they came in to get permission, and it got tabled. But that's going to be concerned. You try to build a business around something like that you may not have control with the government. Now, when you're going to redevelop buildings in an area that's dilapidated, or you're bringing more residential density into a city area, that's where you're going to find the city's going to be more palatable to help you.
Receptive,
where they're doing
way
tax credits and
receptive.
doing other
Right,
things.
Right.
In commercial real estate, we're seeing a lot of these pop-up stores. And so, for example, Soul Cycle, I read that they decided for the winter time to have a pop-up store in Aspen for the winter clientele, and then they had one in Palm Beach, Florida, for their clientele. The other thing that's really popular these days are the containers, where they're also adding, smaller retail stores to see how well they do first before going into a, larger brick and mortar. Is really popular these days.
There can be some concerns with the containers with codes. Right. I try to do a container on a commercial property, and they say no metal buildings within the city. Downtown business district. So I'm like, it's going to be beautiful. I'm going to cut a hole in the side of it. I'm going to put a deck on it. It's going to be used for storage and for fun. And they're like, no.
Just outside the Chicago area, they were looking at kind of like a park like that for restaurants and for new business to take a kind of an old theater and put some surrounding businesses before people put up all their money for storefront. They would kind of test the area. So it's really, kind of
when
a
you
great
said
way.
pop-up for commercial, what did that mean?
So pop-up is temporary store. It can be for a day, a week, a month. And there's a company that's all they do around the entire world. If you want to rent a space for a day, a month, you go on their website and you're able to do a pop-up store in that market to test it out.
Cool.
So cool. So cool.
And Ben, I think you're hitting the nail right on the head, honestly, when you're talking about regulations and stuff with a lot of these new trends. Because we really need to make sure we're educated in those areas before we start to build a whole business model around it. I mean, right in my backyard, you could go 2 miles across cities, and one area is very accepting of Airbnb, and the other is not. And so, you get into that, and you don't really understand your market, or you don't understand the regulations around it. You could really get yourself in a little bit of trouble.
So we nail down any trends? It's like we have like 7 trends.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So.
There you go.
It's
Real estate's trending.
always changing, always evolving into the next greatest thing.
Yeah.